Welcome back, Wetaskiwin, with another part 2 R&R News video. We're back here with Mike Cifarelli. Hello, Mike.
Hello.
Nice to see you again.
Yep.
It's been 5 minutes in real life, but for most people, it's been about two weeks.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move straight into section 2, Mike, talking about taxes and the economy. What is Mike's plan for keeping the Wetaskiwin taxes low? Hopefully low.
I would say don't spend money on projects that we don't need. So don't spend on needs. Or sorry, don't spend on wants. I'm saying this backwards. Don't spend money on things that we want. Spend only money on things that we need, right?
Sure.
And then that way, you know what I mean? Like if something needs to be fixed, let's fix it. Otherwise, just, keep moving forward.
Do you think right now, and I don't know your experience of how much you've looked into the budget of Wetaskiwin, but do you think that they spend a lot of money on wants versus needs currently?
I'm not. All I did was look at the end financial statements.
Yeah, it's a tough question to know because unless you're in there in the mix of things, it's pretty hard to know.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying before, because it's like, it looks good, but I don't know what. Like, I know some projects because they're visible, right? You see, what's going on, but I don't pretend to know every single one, that ever happens, right?
Yeah. Do you think some people's wants would be other people's needs? Like a transportation system for Wetaskiwin or something, like that. That could be a want for somebody, but a need for somebody else.
Of course. I guess it's all it's how you perceive life, and I guess your position, like, where you're at. But I don't think like something, for example, like a transportation, I don't think it's feasible because it doesn't make money.
Right.
And we have a lot of good people in Wetaskiwin that want to help people. And those people, I'm sure they would give them a ride. And I think that's the best way. We need to do it as a community. And back to what I was saying about the street sweepers, for example, if we all went out and swept our own street, we wouldn't even need a street sweeper unless it's for, busy highways and stuff like that, or industrial areas. It makes sense, right? But something that can easily be done.
So what would be your plan for looking into things? So, for example, you get into council and you are going through whatever report and you see something that you're questioning. Is this the kind of thing you're talking about? Would you say, fire department fire truck? How would you question it and go into it? Like, what type of process would Mike use to determine whether we need something or not, or the costs or savings or that sort of thing? I'm trying to think to give you an example so I can actually make it make sense. Well, I just maybe I asked it a little more complicated. Maybe I can simplify it. So
no, I'll try and answer it. It's okay. So there be certain things that, like infrastructure or roads, like you have to fix them. You can't just go let's leave it, because it just gets worse and worse and it wrecks people's vehicles, etc. Right? Mm-hmm. So it was more to do with extra things. Like if we can't afford, we don't want to go super high into debt, for something when we have so much debt happening. We need to pay that off, and then we can have extras. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then as we get further through, I have a lot of things written down that kind of sort of answer the question.
Perfect.
As well.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So you for people that didn't hear part 1, Mike is very resourceful. That's what we've learned in part 1. He seems to be really resourceful at finding money when you need money, and I think it's a great skill to have for a council member, because our taxes are high in this town, and if you have a person on the council who's very resourceful themselves, then that'll spill over into their work life. And if you haven't watched part 1, go back and check it out, because he talks all about how resourceful Mike is. Mike, what are ways we can attract more business to Wetaskiwin? How can we grow our economic development? How can we make more tax dollars?
Well, I actually I was watching one of the by-election that we had last, and Joe Branco had a good idea, was to, because this is an industrial town. We got 7 exits. There's trucks going from Edmonton to Calgary constantly. So we can capitalize that. And we have, you know what I mean? AC Dandy has, we have the tracks here. Like there's a lot, it's just like a shipping mecca, and it's just waiting to be exploited. Right. And so, I think that we should do more manufacturing or some kind of industrial, not like polluting industrial, but I think you get what I mean, right? Like making things or fabrication or something like that, assembly line, right? That way you have decent paying jobs. They're in Wetaskiwin. You could walk there, or bike there or whatever. And, that would keep people in the town. And then plus, if we gave the property away, say for free, and that's what he was suggesting, or we could probably give it at a reduced rate. And then you'd probably have to cap their taxes at a certain amount, like make a contract or a deal in regards to that to keep them there. And then, once we paid off our debt, and that's that's the biggest goal that we have. We have to pay off our debt. We have to be, close to debt free. And that's the goal. So that's kind of what my main goal. And I think like I'm
so what you're saying is you're gonna dig into finances is what it sounds like. You're gonna really look for the savings, and you're gonna look for the finances. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Perfect. Yep. What services, in your opinion, do you think we could cut to save money, or what services do you think we're lacking that you'd like to bring in? Is there anything that comes to mind?
I don't think there's any services that we're lacking. And that's just my personal opinion. I haven't heard of them. Yeah. So there might be some, everybody's different and has different needs. So I'm not aware of any. I don't think we should add more services at the moment. And then the other one I was going to say about services is a lot of people mentioned, it was a big thing in the by-election, was to have recycling pickup, at your door. That's not feasible. It's not. It doesn't make money. It costs money. And sure, it creates a job, but we need to get a job or two. We need to get out of debt, though, right?
So once we get out of debt and we have extra money, is that something you'd like to see, curbside recycling, if we had the finances to afford something like that?
If we did, of course, yeah. But the only thing that bothers me, and I'm all about, I like when private businesses do these sort of things. So that way, if you want to do your own recycling, and I do my own recycling, I don't have a problem doing it, and then some people don't want to do it. But I don't like putting things into the hands of the city if someone can privately do it themselves, because we are creating jobs like that. And then if you don't want to pay for it, you don't have to, right? So right. It keeps it on the level. And what I was going to suggest is if you do want recycling pickup, you can contact Horizon Center, because they drive around in the truck and they do the same thing. I believe, don't quote me, but I think it's $15 a month. They do all your recycling. And I don't know their pickup dates, or you'd have to contact them. And I'll just throw their number out there, 780-352-6096. So hopefully I've solved one problem.
Good stuff. All right. Now my last question in this section is regarding quotes. If you received two quotes, one was out of town, one was in town from a local business, but the local business had a higher price, would you choose to save money by going out of town, or is there value in taking the local guy's quote even though it's higher?
That would depend. So we'll just call it a project, let's say it's mowing lawns or something. We'll just use that for its easy example. And let's just say, normally it was $1,000 to do this job. I'm just making numbers up. And our guys were $100 more, and the other guys were $100 cheaper, $200 cheaper. I definitely go, right? So I guess what my point is, as long as it's reasonable to what we normally pay and to what that jobs are actually worth, and that's easy I could figure that out. Anybody can, right? You just do some research, you can call it around, you'll find out real quick what price ranges you're looking at. So I think as long as it's honest and reasonable, I would go, hands down, I go with local first.
Perfect.
And the other thing I wanted to add about that too is sometimes certain businesses lowball things, right? To keep their guys working. So they'll lose money to keep their guys, and then they have another contract. You see what I'm getting at?
Right.
And so, and there's other reasons why people do that, but I won't go through them all.
Perfect.
I'm a contractor, so I I know what goes on, right?
All right. So, good stuff. Yeah. All right, we're going to move right along. Section 3. What crime in Wetaskiwin has the most impact on our citizens, and do you have a specific plan to deal with that?
I do. Obviously, once you start doing these sort of things, it'll evolve over time, right? You'll learn as you go. But I would say the three worst ones would be drug use, vandalism, and theft. So that would be the main three. And I would say, let's see here. So the first one to do with drug use, best thing to do is prevent kids from doing drugs in the first place. That way we have a future, right? So we're investing in that. So we should make ads directed towards children to educate them on the dangers of doing drugs, and real education, like no I guess no pussyfooting around, or however you want to say it, right? Just tell them straight up, this is how it is. Because and it reminds me of when I was a kid, there was the war on drugs, right? George Bush Sr. So 1980s, we're in the arcade, right? That was just a big thing that we like to do. And before you even started playing the game, it would go and have the FBI thing, and it would make you read this, don't do drugs and how bad they are and all that. And then there's the commercials, which you probably remember, where the guy cracks an egg and puts it in the pan. And he's like, this is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs.
Yeah, remember that one.
And that had a huge impact on me. And some people it didn't, but if it saves a certain percent of people from, doing it in the first place. And then the other thing is there's fentanyl now, right? And that kills people, and we don't need that. We need taxpayers. We don't want them to, fade away. So, and then the other one was, we should start patrolling back lanes. So either law enforcement or our bylaw, right? And if the RCMP is too busy, like I'm not really sure everything that's going on. So you hear rumors, you know what I mean? It's because they're too busy, or it's because of this. I'm like, I want to have this real conversation and find out what is actually going on for real. Like I know certain crimes that are going on. I just mean what's the issue? What are we lacking in? And if the RCMP need help, we can because it costs us money regardless, right? So we might as well just take up the slack with our bylaw, and maybe possibly hire more bylaw and have more training. And
have you had speaking of RCMP really quickly, have you had any situations where you've had to call the RCMP, and how have you found the level of service or response time, or how they handled your call?
Yeah, I had to call the police once. I'm not one of those people that wants to call the police every single, you know what I mean? Like, because I guess if you're, you could go overboard calling the police all the time over anything. But I did have to call the cops once because there was a certain person running around with a crossbow, and it was loaded, and they were in my driveway, and I was like, and it looked like she was running away from somebody, and I was like, okay, I got to call them. Like, I don't normally call you guys, but you got to come in because someone's going to get hurt, right? And their response time was good. And the other thing I was going to say, we need nighttime patrolling as well, right? So like where I'm at right now, the businesses all pay for a private patrol, right? That goes down there every so often, and it's once every hour, right? Or whatever it is. You see them all the time. So that's why I was hoping that maybe bylaw could do that, so that our businesses don't have to pay that out of pocket.
And there was a third issue you had said. I think you touched on two of them. So
the theft, right? So the confiscate stolen goods, right? But don't charge them, because we're just wasting the court's money. And we all know they don't stay in jail anyway. It doesn't matter how many times they do it, right? And we're booked up because of COVID too. So there's a little bit of that going on. And I think we were backed up quite a while before COVID even started.
Okay, sorry, Mike, just so I'm clear, are you saying that we should take the stolen goods that we find and then not charge the people because of the process, or are you saying to charge them?
Yeah.
Okay, not charge them.
Do not charge them, because it's just a waste of time.
All right.
It's a waste of money, and it's a waste of resources, and they're not, if they get fined, they're not going to pay it anyway.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
And they don't care if they go to jail.
Yeah, I don't know how the whole process works, but I don't know.
And what I was going to say is, like, because I've seen guys, and this happens all the time because I do service work. So I drive back and forth, around the same area over and over again, right? And I'm driving back and forth, going to, Home Hardware to grab parts or wherever it is I'm going. And constantly I'm seeing people biking down the road with, the little trailers on the back, and buddy's got a barbecue with the cover on, and it's like an older barbecue, and a lawnmower all stacked all funny with, the gas coming out and everything, and a chainsaw. Like, he just stole it from somebody's yard. I know he did, right? And nothing happens. They just broad daylight, right at 2:00, drive right past the cop shop. They do it all the time, right? Actually, that's right by your store.
Yeah.
So that intersection, right?
But if they're not charging them, wouldn't it just make more crime? Or
no, just complicate the stuff because charging them, they don't do any time,
right?
And they go right back to the same people all the time. Like I know because I see them all the time, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that they're violent criminals. Like they're not. I don't think that they're going around actually robbing people. They're just like armed robbery is what I'm saying. They're not doing that.
Yeah.
It's
petty theft is what you're talking about. Yeah. All right. Let's move on because we need to kind of continue with the interview. So let's talk a little bit about homelessness. Do you have a plan for short and long term to deal with homelessness in Wetaskiwin, or a different plan than what's already being provided through council?
Well, it's hard to say now because now it's moved, now the shelter's moved behind Walmart. Yeah, and I don't know all the details on that. Like Gandam said something about it there, but I wasn't paying attention, right? So,
what would you like to see for homelessness supports in Wetaskiwin?
What I was thinking off the beginning and what I thought with the very few homeless people that we did have before. And I've been here long enough to where we didn't have a homeless shelter, so I know what it was like before versus now. And so I thought that we could go up to take that group and identify who they are, and not make an example out of them or anything, but just find out who they actually are, like people that are from here that are having issues, and deal with them on a one-on-one basis, right? Like take the one person, what are your issues? Because everybody's going to have, different sort of issues. So if we can help them all singly instead of just get a big place and have everybody in there. It's like when you go to fix anything, there's a process. You have to do it in a certain order, otherwise it doesn't work, and you can't do all of it at once. So, good intentions, right? But you know what they say about the good intentions. So
it's tough with that sort of policy, though, because if you have someone who needs one thing like medication, or someone who needs, protection from a violent family member, I mean, you need a place for them to sleep or stay. So you're going to have these facilities to deal with them one-on-one anyway. And so I guess there's merit to having a facility where you can handle kind of several of those conditions at once. But
of course, yeah. And the reason why I brought up, said the first part of like what I just said, was because you need to find out what the number is. You need to start from the beginning, right? And then work your way slowly to the end. And of course, you'd have to find, like, say there was 15 people, right? And then you one-on-one basis went to all the people and you found out what their needs are, right? Because some people might not need that much help, right? And then those ones are easy to fix. And then the other ones might be harder. So, and like you said, they have different issues. They could have something, they have a home to go to, but they can't go there because, of violence or abuse in some way. So yeah. And that's where we need to start. I know that's not the total answer, but I can't tell you what the end result is because I haven't gone through the stages of actually doing it. Right. And then the other thing I was going to say, now that it's over there and they have their own plan going on, I'm not really sure exactly what that plan is. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to know, without getting, seeing exactly what the plans are or the stuff is. But it's interesting. Yeah. Do you think Wetaskiwin is too small to have like a big full blown Hope Mission style of shelter where we're dealing with a lot of these different people? I know that if you go to Alberta website and you search for services, you get directed to the bigger centers for harm reduction and that kind of thing. But do you think Wetaskiwin can support that, or the residents would support that?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I'm sure, like, if I don't know every detail of everything, so I'm trying to answer the question. I know that the shelter that we did have, it brought a lot of faces that aren't from here, and I know people like to say, oh, they're people from the reserve. It's like, no, actually, a lot of them there was people there from Saskatchewan, you know what I mean, and other cities. So it's like you're homeless and you just moved to Wetaskiwin for some reason, right? And so there's that. And then I've heard, and what stories are true or what stories aren't, there's a lot of that going on too, right? So
once you get in there, I'm sure you'll get a whole another perspective on things as well. So
exactly, right? And it's it's just hard to make that decision. And like I said, every person is going to be different. So
right.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along. Good stuff. Let's talk a little bit about our relationship with our neighboring communities. And this could be Musqueam First Nation communities, or it could be like Millet and Pinoka and Camrose, those kind of communities. How do you plan on strengthening the relationship with these communities?
I think through business and trade is the best way. Especially with the reserve. And I do that a lot. Like I do a lot of online sales. I sell used housing materials, you know what I mean? And I give good deals. And that's always a good thing to happen, right? And so once you've established that business, then you depend on each other, right? And then you can create a better relationship just by, being honest and having a good transaction of some sort. And, obviously helping people whenever you can. So for example, I've done a workout in Pigeon Lake, right? And there was an old guy next door, an elderly guy, and he was trying to get his lawnmower out of his car because this is their summer vacation home. So I seen him and he was struggling, and I was like, man, do you need a hand? And he's like, yeah, I got it in there, but I'm not sure how to get it out. It's all wedged in there. So I took it out for him. And that's what brings people together. It doesn't have to be something major. You just have to be a good person, right?
For sure.
And I think that's probably one of the hugest things that we can do. Yeah.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about Truth and Reconciliation. I see you're wearing an Every Child's Mattered shirt. Today is Truth and Reconciliation Day, even though the interview is posted a week or two later. Do you think Wetaskiwin does enough for Truth and Reconciliation, or is there something you'd like to see added that the council would do if you were a councillor?
Okay, so I don't really have a plan for truth and reconciliation. I don't know that you could plan that because it's surrounding emotions, and I'm not very good at solving people's emotional problems. I'm just not good at it, right? But one thing I do know, like this situation, like how they're doing this, like down at the reserve, they're giving out T-shirts, not this one specifically, but different ones, and little stickers. And I got put 2 hands on my truck, and they say, and I think it's helping. I've noticed that, and I've asked certain natives and even ones that have gone to those schools, right? And they say that it's helping, but it's kind of like a mixed emotion thing, right? Sometimes they feel sad that it has to be the day, right? And then, but overall, I think it's helping. So what I would say is, if anybody has a plan, like it doesn't have to just be council, it could be someone in the community. Someone is really good at that, and I'm more than willing to follow the leader and help do that.
Awesome.
Because again, I'm not the best person to. If emotions are involved, I can't.
Right.
Give me money situations, and I'm good to go. Right. So.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the current council. Do you think the current council and the decisions that they've made in the past 2 or 4 years, some of them were on for 2, have been getting things right, or have they been getting things completely wrong? What are your views on the decisions they've made so far?
Okay. I don't know every single decision they made, but I do know quite a few. They don't seem to be spending a lot of money on, like exorbitant money on things that we don't need. So that's good.
That is good. Yeah.
And, right. That are not necessary is what I'm saying. They seem to be just fixing things that are broken or need updating and stuff like that, as far as I'm aware. And the community gardens, that was awesome. Like I remember talking to council about that, and I think I don't remember who it was, but they came to council and they wanted funding to create one. And then I was talking to one of the councillors and I said, well, community gardens are great. Like I was on Vancouver Island and they put them on rooftops there, but they can do it all year round, right? Or most of the year anyway. I said, they're great. People love them. And we had all that, parklands that they put them in. And they weren't being used for anything anyways. And everybody loves it. They get good vegetables. So I'm really happy about that. Right. And then the other, I don't really have anything else better to really say.
Sure. No, that's okay. And what about any negatives? Like, have you heard any decisions that you were like, you know what, I really wish they would have done it different. I would have done it different.
Oh, and one thing, sorry, forgot to mention on the,
Sure.
I think it was the last one. Did we go through taxes? Yeah, we did, eh?
Yeah, you'll have a little bit of time at the end, Mike, to touch base on anything that that I've skipped over or missed.
Yeah, you kind of skipped it. I'm taking forever.
No. That's okay. That's all right. No, that's all right.
Yeah, no. So the only thing that I think was handled or too rushed was the homeless shelter. That was the only thing. And like I said, there's good intentions. I can tell that they are. They're good people. It's just you have to be really careful.
So with that statement you just made, are you saying that the closing of the 24/7 hub that was downtown, they went too quickly to close it? They should have maybe stretched that process out a bit longer?
No, I think they should have stretched the process of how they were going to deal with the situation in the first place.
Right. Okay.
Right. And so the reason, well, it moved because like I fix a lot of like if anybody breaks and enters anywhere, there was so many doors and windows smashed downtown, and we have private security driving up and down. Like this has never happened before. And I realized there's quite a bit of crime, right? And I do fix a lot of rentals, so there's a lot of break-ins, and then I work for some real estate companies too as well. And people will break into houses because they know they're empty, right? There's a sign up and nobody's around. So I'm one of the guys that have to go deal with that. And it was insane, like way too much, you know? And certain stores that have nothing to steal that are just pointless. They're just doing vandalism.
So you're talking about before letting the 24/7 even come into there should have been a lot more planning and preparation. I see what you're saying. Of course,
yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, right,
yeah.
All right.
I'm not faulting anyone. I'm just saying it was too fast.
Sure.
Too fast.
Yeah, you would have liked to take it a little bit slower. Good answers. All right, we're going to move into Wetaskiwin's. Now, you've already touched on this. You've already told us Wetaskiwin's biggest problem and how you'd solve it, I think. So let's talk about your vision for Wetaskiwin. Where would you like to see us in the 4 years of potential work that you're doing?
Okay. Yep. So obviously debt is the biggest problem. And the reason why I say that, so we got debt and crime. But here's the thing about our debt. Crime is a certain percent of that, or maybe a large percent of that, we'll have to find out is because we're in debt. Because if we had more jobs and more opportunities and less lower taxes, we would have less debt, we'd have more population, and people would do better. You know what I mean? In the long run. So I think that's why we should tackle that one first. We can do it both at the same time. But when I think of a council, everybody's good at something. So let's work like ants. If I'm good at something, right, let me take that on, right, and have the best person for that specific job. And then if someone else is better than me or someone else at some other issue, then put them on it, and then maybe we can help each other and train, like say, because it gets interesting, right? If someone knows a lot about something and you don't, then you can come there and help. And if they ever get sick or can't be there for some reason, you can kind of, take up the slack. And then the other thing I was going to say, let's see here. Oh, and I was going to say something just so people understand about the debt. So sometimes people, here's a saying that works out good. So you take, even just for personal debt, you take the highest interest credit card, right? And you just keep throwing that money on there till it's gone. And then you move on to the next one. So that's what we need. That we just need to be relentless like that, right? And how we would do that is obviously save money wherever we can without making cuts. There's always something, that someone overlooked, right? And I'd love to investigate that. And again, I won't know what that is until I'm actually, right in there doing that. And also I'd like to mention the landfill. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money getting buried in the ground, like lots. So over in 2018, there was a lot of people moving out of places and leaving, like for the rentals that I dealt with, they were leaving all their stuff at like full houses. So I had to go to the landfill sometimes twice a day for the whole summer. It was really busy, right? And so each time I was there, I seen the metal on the face of the landfill, right, where it gets buried. And I would take items that I saw that shouldn't be in there. And most of it was metals, or some of it was working stuff. Like I found a weed whacker and it had a clogged screen. I cleaned the screen out, worked perfectly fine. So this is, and some people have money, they'll just go buy another one, but other people don't, right?
That's right.
And so with the math that I figured, I'll keep it short. So over that four or five, I think it was about 5 months, and I made $1,798 just off the recycling, right? And I did the math on it. So every time I was there, I counted that as an hour and a half. because I was only there for, I'd offload the stuff and then I'd grab a couple of things and then throw them in the back of the truck, right? And the bonus is the customer wouldn't have to pay that weight on the way out. And the other bonus is Wetaskiwin, less stuff is getting buried in the ground. And so from my rough calculations on that year, for sure, we were burying $10,000 a month in recycling. And that's not including usable products, right? And that doesn't happen every day, but it does. And I do realize it's technically, not legal for me to take stuff out of the landfill, but you know what? I couldn't help it. Sure. So there's the money and then there's the research, right? Right. And so if we stop doing that, we could create a job, for someone to work at the landfill. And I don't mind training them. I'm really good at doing these sort of things. And this guy or girl could do, get training, right? And we could pay them quite high. And because it worked out that my hourly was about $50 an hour for my time. So if we paid 18 during training and then bumped them up to 20 once they know what they're doing, we've just created a seasonal job, because I doubt the guy wants to be out there when it's minus 40 and there's less garbage and renos in the winter anyway, right? Right. And when this person is not busy on the face, right, where they're burying everything, then he can go down, or he or she could go down to the metal piles that we have, because we have 2 there now, and start processing that stuff instead of squashing it. And I don't mind helping us get the highest price on all our metals, because when you sell different metals, different places give you higher prices, right? So batteries, for example, you'd want to bring them to one place, right? Because we get the highest price.
Yeah, there certainly would be a lot of resources you could probably get out of it.
And so I don't know how much money is there, but for sure $50,000 a year on a busy year.
Awesome.
And so there's that. Plus we make a job, right? And less garbage in the landfill. Right. Okay, so another thing that I thought we could probably do to make more money for the city was we could have a country music festival at just throwing it out there, the Wetaskiwin Agricultural Society. And not everybody likes country, but we're definitely in cowboy country. So if we could do something like that, it will be fun for people. And I guarantee you we can make a whole bunch of money off doing that. And we can also use, do outdoor, say, in the summer, maybe at a baseball diamond, something like that. So, and here's the thing about the city is like how I see a city, maybe other people don't see it like this. Like I believe we're a business, Alberta is a business, Canada is a business. We're all a business. So if we can, do what we already do now, but also make it so that instead of investing in money spending money on things just because we need to fix something, then we could probably invest in money in things like, a music festival or something like that. And that way we would know how much we're going to get on a return, etc. And also there's all the vendors and stuff like that, and hotels and this and that. Everybody stands to make money off that stuff.
A lot of spillover for sure.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be country; it could be anything, right? I'm just trying to
more community events that bring in business and tourists to Wetaskiwin, right? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, a country music festival. I mean, we could do that 3 times a year. And we'd still make money, and we could bring in, and there's all kinds of local bands too that are really good, and we can maybe have one big band and have one of our local ones cover for them, and nothing but good things can happen when we do stuff like that. And then here's another one here. So I'm from Northern Ontario, so it's different, right? So there's a city that's near me. Well, not right near where I grew up, but it's called Timmins. So they have a population of just over 41,000 people, which is not so much bigger than Wetaskiwin. So what they do, they have an airport there, and what they use their airport for is the quarter-mile drag race. So what these guys do is they do the whole, I think they call it the circuit or the strip, right? I can't remember what they call it, but they go from west to east, and they go through the states, and then they come back up again. So Wetaskiwin doesn't have a quarter mile drag strip, and maybe possibly if we put one at our airport, we'd have to. So two things: we'd have to expand the distance of our airport because it's not quite a quarter mile. And from my understanding, if we extend it past a certain point, we have to be open 24 hours. So which means we'd have to put more money in it. But the great thing about doing something like this is that city of Timmins takes in $1 million a year profit just towards the city. That doesn't include vendors or anything like that. And I realized that, nobody likes change. If you were doing something like the airport, sure, there's going to be complaints. You know what I mean? But it's 3 days.
Yeah.
It's 3 days and it's $1 million. And the airport doesn't make money. It doesn't profit, but it's something we need. So if we can make it 24 hours and actually turn a profit, we could give huge tax breaks to the flight instructors there and all the different, there's all kinds of business going on there, which I actually just went and met recently, with one of the businesses that operates there. And they were concerned about the taxes. And I said, I hear you. I pay a lot of taxes for the property I own, almost double what it's actually worth. And that's not Wetaskiwin's, that's not council's fault. We're in debt. We need to pay it off. So that I think that would be a great idea for something to do. And I'm just going to throw it out there. If people in the area don't want to listen to the noise, just go on vacation, because you're going to know $1 million is going to be paid off of that, right? Your property values are going to go up. I've already talked to some people in the area and they agree. It's already loud anyways over there. And if we have a 24-hour airport, there's all kinds of business coming in after that. Like
cool.
All kinds.
Interesting.
And I don't pretend to know, the extent to that, but it's huge. Mm-hmm. And if we're profit off of it, that's what we need to do. What's the other one here? I was gonna say, it's like that. You remember that movie? If in the cornfield, if you build it, they will come. Yeah, that's always how it goes.
Nice. That's true. If you don't build it, they're not going to come. That's for sure.
Exactly. So if we can do something like that, and just agree, hey, we need to pay our debt down.
Right.
Whatever it takes, that's what we have to do.
Sure. Hey, I was going to ask you, Mike, those are all awesome ideas. What if money wasn't an issue, like say we had an influx of cash, a whole bunch of money, and you could choose something that Wetaskiwin doesn't have that you really would like to see, and it wasn't going to cost anybody anything, what you think, what would that be? What would you like to see Wetaskiwin, kind of a wish or a genie bottle opening up?
Yeah. So originally the question was unlimited resources.
Okay, unlimited resources. Sorry, take it.
I'm talking about money here, so I can just go on for like. I
meant resources. Sorry, answer it as if it was resources. Mike, first, sorry.
All right. So I was like unlimited. I was like, so that's what I have written down.
Yeah, that's what's written for me too, and I just read it as money. Sorry, go.
So what I would do if I had. I don't have the answers for that specific question, because I didn't write them down, and I had a certain mindset of what the question meant, and so Wetaskiwin from like there's heat under the ground, like hotspots, right, for geothermal. So we have technology nowadays that will actually make energy off of below 100 degrees. So I think. Don't quote me on this. I couldn't bring up the article. I couldn't find it. I'm sure I could find it. I just couldn't find it in time. But we can make money off of that. And so if you look on the maps for the heat, that it goes through Wetaskiwin and obviously into Calgary, into the mountains, because there must be some kind of where two plates come together.
Thermal vent, or plate tectonics.
Exactly. So if you look that up, and we have the technology out of the UK, there's these small systems, so we can set up little tiny systems, and that's what I'm a huge fan of. I don't want to set up. I would never set up some big, huge thing, because as soon as one thing goes wrong, it's all shut down, right? You have to wait for repairs, etc. But if we do little small things here and there in every city, or wherever they can be applied, then we can all stock the same parts. We're always up and running all the time, right? And so geothermal would be great. And I'm only saying that from the graphs that I can look at online. So I'm not 100% sure. Like, you'd have to drill down and do testing first.
Absolutely.
And then confirm what those results are to do something like that. So I thought that would be a really cool thing. Free electricity.
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
And
maybe we can strike oil. Like, if we set up an oil derrick and dig down, maybe there is like a vast thing of resources down there for sure. Absolutely.
Maybe there might be something else, like lithium. You have no idea.
Well,
right?
when Wetaskiwin builds the underpass for the train, so that we can go under the train instead of over the train, maybe they'll come across diamonds or something. You never know, right?
Who knows? Yeah. And so I thought that would be a great idea. I'm not a huge I like renewable resources, but solar panels and batteries, it's not the way.
Okay.
And if you do the math on it, like, I won't go too far into it, but if you do the math on batteries, that's the biggest problem, is energy storage. So what we need to do, and this is all about the future, right? Like, at some point, like some of this I'm going to do on my own. Small projects, whether I get voted in or not, it makes no difference. I love this sort of stuff, right? As long as it makes money and it's profitable, then we're doing it, right? And so the other thing was how to store that energy. So it doesn't matter how we make it. To store reserves, what we need to do is store it in compressed air. And compressed air can be stored in propane tanks, right? So that sort of stuff is already existing. We don't have to have a special tank or any kind of super high pressures. So we can store that. And I don't know if you remember when Texas had the power outage.
Vaguely.
So anyway, the reason why I remember it is because one of my properties was on the fluctuating rate, and I had a $680 electricity bill for that month. And that was at there's nothing being used over there. So
Yikes.
It was $680 some odd dollars minimum charge.
Wow.
So during a period of time like that, if Wetaskiwin had those sort of things, then we would be able to push electricity back into the grid and make a ton of money, like a ton. And then the other thing I would have done too was to install vertical access wind turbines on every light post, because they already have electricity hooked up to them. So when you hook these in, what they do is they mount to the poles, right? And it's already existing structure. So you don't have to build new infrastructure. You just attach it to existing stuff. And then also I would put that on all the cell towers, because they're hooked up to electricity as well. And again, we can store that in compressed air. And when we need it, well, we don't need it because we make a lot of electricity at that point. We'll all get discounts for that, right? Or hopefully have it for free. And then we can dump that in, wait till the price is high, sell it, right? And that's awesome because it'll store forever. And I think, let's see here. Oh, and I would pay off, well, if I had unlimited resources, which would mean everything, I would pay off the personal debt of every Albertan.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
And the geothermal, I would do that everywhere it's viable. I would do the whole province. So that would only be Calgary up into the mountains, wherever it would work, right? You can't drill into the side of a mountain and put something like that. And the neat thing about that is we already have the drill, we already have the rigs, we already have the guys that know how to do it, and that would make us a global leader in North America just on geothermal. It's not even tapped into, and it's forever.
Right.
I mean, maybe not forever. Nothing's forever. It's finite, anyways. It'll exist for a long period of time. And so that was my vision. And obviously I would pay off the debt of Alberta, and Wetaskiwin and everybody. That just everybody would get everything.
Awesome.
It's kind of a weird question, because you think
it is a weird question. That's right.
Yeah, if you had unlimited money, why would we do anything?
But I think Mike, the question is more about your answer than the actual question, right? I mean, clearly, you're an individual with a ton of fresh ideas. The stuff you've said tonight is very unique, which is awesome. And I think that you bring a ton of energy and a lot of fresh ideas that we may have never thought of before. So that's a great quality in a person, to have ideas that can make money, and that to look at all of the ends of it, like all of your history and the stuff you've done for business and everything is just. You can tell what kind of a entrepreneur and resourceful person you are just from the way that you talk to me today.
Yeah. And thank you. And it gives me purpose in life. You know what I mean? Like if I didn't do what I do, and I don't mean exactly what we're talking about. I fully intend on doing all those things if it's possible. But my job is my life, and maybe that sounds weird or maybe depressing to some people, but it's not to me, because it gives me purpose.
That's great.
And that's why I'm here, right? And if whatever I can do that's good for everyone else, then right, that's the way you got to be. And
awesome.
And the other thing I wanted to mention, because I actually know quite a few of my friends that when they start talking about politics, and I'm from Ontario, there's a little bit of hate between Albertans and Ontarios. You guys always vote for Liberals and all this other stuff, right? So I just wanted to clarify, like just put a little bit on that, just to give people an idea where I'm actually from. And so when I say Northern Ontario, we're 16 hours away from Toronto. I don't know a single person from Toronto. We don't like the people from Toronto. We're not the same. And even if all of Northern Ontario voted Conservative, that's 780,000 votes. It wouldn't make any difference whatsoever. And feel free to look up on the map. Like, I'm serious, it wouldn't.
Absolutely. So speaking of the election, how do you feel about the current results of the election that we just went through?
Well, I would say so technically the Liberal Party only gained 2 seats because Jody Wilson-Raybould wasn't going to do another term. And she was an independent, and they lost a seat because of that. So technically, they only gained 2. So it was a complete waste of $600 million,
right,
or 604, or whatever it was.
Right.
I mean, there's all kinds of memes online of what people could have done
absolutely.
With that money. And we could have done something better, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So. If your platform resembled a party, if Mike Cifarelli's platform was an actual party, would it be an NDP party, a Liberal, a Conservative, or a Green Party? What do you think you align most with as how you operate your party?
Well, you made the signs, right? So I almost copied the Conservative sign, and here's the thing about that. I definitely Conservative, to answer your question, but a lot of Conservatives, or I noticed the Conservative government or Conservative Party is falling behind on renewables, new ideas. Like they have a lot of good about them, and in my opinion, better than any of the other. And it depends on your job too, right? How it affects you. But I think they have a lot better ideas. They want less government control. They want private, right? They want to lower the prices of everything and let us do our thing, which I love. But they are lacking on the renewables, and we've been shut down by by the Liberals and whoever else, or whatever powers that be. So we can't ship our oil out, and we have to do it all by train. And we can all speculate to what those reasons are. It's never one reason; it's always lots. But if we can capitalize on some of our other resources, then that probably won't matter so much. Right. And then we'll have money to put, just be more independent, right?
Sure.
And the other thing I wanted to mention about that is about being from Northern Ontario. So when I lived in Thunder Bay, we have more in common with the people from Manitoba. Like most of my friends, if they're from a different province, we're Manitobans. Like basically, Northern Ontario should get annexed by Manitoba. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion. We're friends with those people. Like, we don't get along with the South. It's hard. And so when you hear that, you're like, you hear this hate, and it's like, we're not those people. Like, when I meet someone here from Manitoba, or they're from Winnipeg, it's like we're best buds. We talk the same, we walk the same. We're just, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't hate me because I'm from Ontario, because I'm technically from Manitoba, in my opinion, right?
Awesome.
You'd have to live there to understand,
for sure,
what I'm getting at. And people from Manitoba or Winnipeg, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just
gotcha.
We're like brothers, right?
So the last question I have, which I've asked every other candidate, is regarding COVID-19, and I'm just curious to know your opinion on. I know that the city followed pretty much the provincial guidelines that was laid out for COVID-19 restrictions, but with Wetaskiwin's vaccine numbers being lower than provincial average. Do you think that Wetaskiwin Council should implement stricter restrictions to protect our citizens? And that's kind of part A. And part B is, should they have increased more restrictions previously, or should they have implemented more restrictions? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, yeah, that's a big topic, and everybody, it's polarized. That's for sure.
It's polarized, but I guess you can kind of look at it, the question per se, as, do you think that council should have their hand in protecting its citizens over and above the province?
Yeah. Well, before I answer that question, I just wanted to say I emailed MPs, MLAs when this first began in April, right? And not this April, like the beginning of the whole thing.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah.
And I emailed them and I said, look, this is serious, right? We need to protect the elderly and, how do you say that? Immune compromised people. We need to protect those people, and we need to stabilize the economy by having young people such as myself, right? People who aren't likely to die from it, to keep the economy going. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened. To me, it was a complete failure, right? And not a complete failure. Like, they tried, but it's almost like they got fed the information too slow. Like I'm just speculating from, watching point of view. And I don't think council did anything wrong.
Right.
I don't know if that's part of the question, but I don't blame them.
No, I guess the question is should council go over and above to protect its citizens? If they think that there's something they could implement to make the spread, like we lost people's lives in Wetaskiwin, there's people with health problems now. So I guess the question is I guess again the question would be, should council go over and above what the province has saying? You need to do this level of protection for your citizens. A council could say, no, we're going to go higher. We're going to do the vaccine exemption program for every business, not just restaurants. Like, there's some things that council could do to make it more restrictive, to limit the movement of people. And should that be council's role, or should it be the government's role to figure out what that is? I guess is kind of the question.
It's my understanding that the city can make its own decision. They
can go over and above, but they have to follow the provincial minimum, right? But the city could. Yeah. So, for example, the plastic bag ban. There was plastic bags were thought to have spread COVID, right? But city council had a ban on plastic bags. But then when the COVID came out and this whole scare of reusable bags came out, council said, no, we're reinstating, or we're getting rid of the plastic bag ban to protect our citizens so that they can use throwaway bags versus the regular bags, right? So they did stuff that is over and above what they needed to do. So that's kind of the question. Should they have their hand in the healthcare of citizens?
Yes, I think that they should make their own decisions.
Right.
And I would argue otherwise. If they thought that they should do less restrictions, then we should have the choice. Right.
Okay. Well, we're not able to, because we have to follow the minimum, for as far as I know.
I don't imagine what they'd be able to do if we just decided.
Exactly. I guess so. If you just ignored everything, who knows what?
No, I'm not ignoring everything. But my point is, if we want to make our own rules, this is our city. You don't live in Wetaskiwin and you don't know what's going on because you don't live here.
Right.
And so whatever rules that we decide, that's our rules.
Gotcha.
You don't like it, go move somewhere else. And that's kind of the way I'd like to deal with things. I don't think that they should go more into the restrictions. I'm not a huge fan of that.
All right.
And this whole situation is causing so much divide too. This virus isn't our fault. Albertans should not be attacking other Albertans for any reason, right? We're the same people. Like, I live here. I was born in Northern Ontario, and I don't tell people I tell people I'm an Albertan. I will never take that red plate off my truck ever. Like, not happening. Like, you'll have to peel it off my dead hands. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah, and I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the other thing I would like to mention is the part that really bothers me, because I've been around, like when I used to, remember when I said that I used to go to Vancouver Island and do the snowbird thing and work out there for the winter because stuff was slow with me, and my business wasn't as I didn't have as many customers as I did, as I do now, right? So now I don't have any reason to leave, and honestly, every time I leave Alberta, I can't wait to get back, right? I think I'm losing my train of thought there.
That's okay. It's late. It's almost 11 o'clock tonight, so it's understandable, Mike. It's no biggie.
You had to it again. Oh yeah. So the part that really bothers me about being an Albertan is when you listen to Global News, CBC, CTV. It doesn't matter. They always put in this Alberta hate message, and sometimes it's slight, and sometimes a little bit, and sometimes they try and get Albertans to attack Albertans. It's politics, is what it is, right? And I don't like that.
Right.
Don't like it at all.
For sure.
So that does not help. We don't need that. I mean, if I was the premier of Alberta, I would ban all liberal media from even talking to us in the first place. Like, you're banned off the property. Get out. You don't like it, leave. And I've been visiting one time, just to give you give you another point, is when I was back in Ontario, I was talking to a fellow, and he was actually running for the Conservative Party back east. And I talked to him for a bit, and I was just coming there visiting to get some of my stuff and help my mom out and then come back, kind of thing. And he was running for the Conservative Party, and he was standing on a ladder, painting one of the houses that he bought or whatever. And he started bad talking Alberta, and I was mad. Like, I was really mad. I was going to kick his ladder out, and I'm like, don't do it. You know what I mean? And so that's the kind of, I'm proud to be an Albertan,
right?
And without Alberta, there wouldn't be a Wetaskiwin. So it's kind of like they're friends, right?
For sure.
So, hopefully, I don't want more restrictions. I would say that if the city wants to protect the vulnerable, yeah, let's do it. I mean, I said that right from the beginning. We should have done this a different way, but we didn't. And I guess we just, and I hope that we're over the worst part of it.
That would be great.
We'll see. And one really bad part about this situation is the restaurants, they're suffering. And they've been suffering for a long time.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. I don't know how they could even survive. They have little margins to begin with, so it's a miracle that most of them are still around. So
yeah. And I mean, see, for me, at first I lost all my jobs. So what happened was, as soon as COVID hit, I worked for the month, the entire 30 days, or whatever the month was, right? Around 30 days. And right after that, I lost every single contract I had because lumber was involved. And instead of building it, like lumber for a garage was, I'm just making numbers up here, would be $10,000 normally, let's just say, or materials. Now it's $30,000 and everybody's canceling. And then a lot of the people, a lot of my other customers, that they didn't know if they were going to lose their jobs or this or that. So I said, look, don't spend any money. Spend nothing. Don't worry about me. Worry about yourself, right? I'll survive. I'm okay with that. And the reason why I can survive is because I grew up fairly poor, and I had to, I'm grabbing at straws to make something out of nothing all the time. And so most business owners around here are sharks. So they will go after one they might have a little side hobby here and there or a couple of things, but mostly it's just the one thing that they depend on, right? As soon as they lose that, the business is failing, right? So me, I'm not a shark. I'm an octopus. I got the little arms sticking out, right? And if one gets cut off, I just grow more. And I don't care what it is. I'm selling sand. I'm selling this. I'm doing that. I'm renovating this. You know, you just got to be. The word's not coming to me, but you just got to be able to do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's the great thing about Wetaskiwin. So there isn't a ton of jobs here. You know, not everybody, like if you don't get a job at AC Dandy or, you know, one of the big Manlock or one of the big companies here, right? If you don't get a landed job there, you know, not everybody can work at Walmart. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the neat thing about Wetaskiwin is if you want to do business and you want to be self-employed, it makes no difference what you want to do it. Just go ahead, do it. And that's what I would advise people to do. And then we can all work together as our own economy, right? You do this, I do that. And lots of times you'd have to do like, say, 4 or 5 different things. You do 4 or 5 different small things. Now it adds up to way more than you'd be getting paid at a job. And plus you have your own freedom.
Right.
You can take a vacation when you want, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No.
I think you're self-employed, so you understand.
Yeah. No. But yeah, for sure. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Mike, how would Wetaskiwin people get a hold of you if they wanted to find out more information about anything you've said tonight or talk to you about anything else? What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
I think we did that.
We did it during part 1, but not part 2.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So people, a separate part. Oh, yeah. So Mike Cifarelli at gmail.com and 780, so phone calls, obviously, 780-839-9112.
Perfect. Well, Mike, I want to thank you so much for your interview tonight. I have learned so much about Mike Cifarelli tonight and what type of ingenuity this person has to basically take anything and make it better. So that is amazing. You have a lot going on in your head, probably constantly. I can tell that about you. And it doesn't stop. So when I'm talking to you, my mind is going a million miles an hour sorting this, and then it'll resort it and resort it. Well,
right?
You do.
So I can come up with the proper answer. It's got to be right. Otherwise,
why do it at all? Awesome.
And the other thing I was going to say, we're a little bit rushed for time there, so I wanted to say more.
Go ahead.
But I'm actually glad. Listen, I'm actually glad that we got a little bit rushed because I don't want to bore everybody with my ramblings, right? So,
well, I'm pretty sure, Mike, even saying that you're rushed, this is probably going to be the longest video that the longest part 2 that anyone is. I'm going to gamble and say this is probably going to be the longest part 2 of anyone. But just saying, not a bad thing. There's no time limit, right? So I'm good talking to anyone for as long as they want to talk, Mike. I have no problem.
No. Yeah, no, of course.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to get across to Wetaskiwin before we say goodnight?
I don't think so. I mean, the majority, like, if anybody wanted me to expand, I can always expand in person. And, you know, you don't want to say everything, right?
You could keep some secrets for but I can guarantee you, Mike, that anyone who has listened to this entire interview knows what kind of person, not person you are, but how you analyze things and analyze problems and find solutions to solutions, and also not give up. Like, I can see that you are that kind of person from our interview, and I'm sure everybody who's watching this can see the same thing. So that's commendable, because that's great. I think it's some good qualities in yourself. And on election day, everybody, Mike Cifarelli for council. His name's up there. There we go. And if that's all we got, Mike, we're going to say goodnight and wave goodnight to all these fine folks of Wetaskiwin. Okay. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.